we want to talk about Brother Sekou Odinga. My husband, Don Cox, the field marshal, once had to go to, I want to say, Congo, Brazzaville. I remember Don Cox coming back and saying to me, if anything ever happens, Sekou is the only person I want at my back.
He was the lion of the movement. That's what Sekou means to me. And countless others, innumerable others.
If ever there was anyone that I could call the quintessential revolutionary, it would be him.
He's the greatest, most outstanding example of steadfastness I ever met. And by steadfastness, I don't mean something that came out of rigidity or dogma. It wasn't like that at all with him. It came out of love for his people.
When you think about a lead man, think about an anchor man, think about somebody who has your back, somebody that can take the lead if necessary, somebody is there by your side.
He always had the ability to make ordinary person, ordinary people better.
It's like you just believed him, and it made you want to fight for your freedom. It made you want to become a freedom fighter.
Overall, Sekou Odinga and I have been in a dialogue for 40 years that at different points was more intense or less intense.
Brother Sekou Odinga was a man who loved Almighty God, loved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Islam.
He was true to his religion, and he was an example for all of us to see what a Muslim person is supposed to be like.
A resolute revolutionary freedom fighter who never gave up his struggles and never turned his back on his people to the day he passed.
He just never took a day off from loving us all, and loving his people and loving his community.
He showed up fully himself, and most of us show up with masks. As James Baldwin warned us, those masks will mask the love too. That was never the case with Sekou. He showed up fully, beautifully, perfectly, and imperfectly, but as is.
Even as a young child, even though he was the fourth brother, when my mom had to run errands at night, and several times she had to take my dad to work. We lived in Queens, New York. My dad worked on the island, so that was quite a distance. And rather than maybe someone would think that she would have chosen one of the older boys, she always chose him. So even she, without voicing it, saw him as a protector. Those things, when I look back on it, says to me he was becoming Sekou. That wasn't his given name, but that's who he was becoming.
The general narrative seems to suggest that the Black Panther Party developed, and afterwards it came about the development of the Black Liberation Army. But the idea of a clandestine military force in the community to serve the community and to serve our nation was already brewing in our minds, even before the idea of before the idea of a party to serve the people. And that's one of the things that Sekou seemed to be ready for.
I joined the Panther Party. Sekou was the political education instructor in the Harlem office. And so I came maybe on Tuesday night for political education and other nights for other things, but political education was Tuesday. And Sekou was the instructor so that he would instructor of me and a bunch of other families in the fort. And so the way I met him was that I used to always try to say something in each class, just so that he can know that I'm keeping along with it. I said something to Sekou about, well, that seemed like there could be two answers to this situation. And Sekou said, no, in this classroom, there's only one answer to this situation, right? And it's the one I just told you about.
I just remember how well respected, even though, and how principled he was.
When this man walked into the room, you could see the power.
There wasn't aloofness or stand back. He had a certain quiet dignity about him.
And he wasn't a man to play with. If he told you something, he meant it.
If you thought that you were going to run into a person just because he was, didn't raise his voice and therefore he was punk or he was shy person, you were mistaken.
Sekou had that when he smiled, it lit up the room. He had this twinkle in his eye. It was a genuine, feeling that you felt when you were talking with Sekou.
The extent of like his revolutionary force in life, I admire the general, the strategist, like how much he was able to display tenacity and apply his conscious mind to the world around him. Like he had so much world change pass through his hands, and he was a person it just felt like nothing was impossible for.
But Sekou Odinga is one of the greatest strategists of our lifetime.
He was a master organizer. That he had the ability to devise a plan, to come up with a plan, to effectively carry it out.
Who was the calmest, who was the most discerning, and who acted immediately. He didn't hesitate when it came to action, and usually his decisions were correct.
They talk about when everything goes wrong, but Sekou, to my knowledge, never planned a military action that went wrong.
And in fact, that's one of the reasons why he wasn't captured. And when the NYPD swept down on us on April 1st, 1969, to arrest us, Sekou escaped. The police had blocked off the stairs and all of the exits from the building. And Sekou shimmied down a drain pipe 4 stories up in the apartment building into an empty alley and escaped. And the next time we heard from Sekou, he was in Algeria.
Sekou spent a lot of his time in the office in the national section, where he, Larry Mack, Elbridge Cleaver, Don Cox, Pete O'Neill, and miscellaneous other people that would come from all over the world to talk to the Black Panther Party people. Sekou was very instrumental in welcoming people.
Many of the Panthers who were in the international section, they went on to seek asylum in France. Some of them went to Tanzania, some to South Africa. But Sekou Odinga came back to the United States. He came back underground. He came back to the United States, and he became a foremost general and leader in the Black Liberation Army in the underground.
It wasn't the popular thing to do. It was a sacrifice. It's something that he gave selflessly, like without thinking, oh, this is for myself, this is for me, this is for my, this is an era that was just kind of like, no, I gotta give myself. in order to, and other people got to give themselves. And that is what's going to, that is what's going to contribute to the future generations and the future liberation movement.
People had known that I had been wanted by the FBI and wanted by the police. People hadn't been known that he had been wanted by the FBI and wanted by the police. When people would see me, they would recognize me. Sometimes I would be somewhat disguised, but never disguised to the point as my brother Sekou. You wouldn't even recognize Sekou Odinga from one day to the next because he was so meticulously adept at making himself look as if he was someone different from who he looked like yesterday.
We were at Matulu's memorial program, and I walked in, and Watani, here come that DC crew. And I saw some dude sitting beside him.
People would look at him, and I could see at some point in a meeting where people would say, could that be Sekou Odinga?
And I'd say, hey, how you doing, Watani? How you doing, brother? I shook his hand and everything. How you doing, brother?
You didn't know for the first half hour that you were in the presence of Sekou Odinga.
And I turned around, and then I felt something on my back. And I turned around, but it's just like he said, man, you would never know. And I mean, the closest people to him, he would get us.
And now that you know, just be quiet about it and continue on with the meeting. Be happy that we have somebody who could have fooled you like that. Because just as he fooled you like that, he can fool the police.
That time period that we met, it was a lot of turbulence going on. I think the Black Panther Party split. He gone to it, and so things was just in a kind of world, twirl. Mm-hmm. He was the kind of brother that you could shelter with in the twirl of the whirlwind. If space was tight and you had to sleep with one of your male comrades, he was the kind of comrade that a female could feel very so sheltered with, that whatever activities that might have, and and he was very concerned that my children, because I did have children, so he always wanted, it was kind of like a protective big brother, really, who wanted to keep me and my children safe. He never came and did not bring it. He was always bringing something. As a matter of fact, I think I still have a doll from my youngest child that he brought me, from his travels, like a little black doll. Mm-hmm. And I still have that doll.
Recognizing that the white anti-imperialist movement was part of the oppressor nation itself and had privilege, and we have privilege as a result of that, and need to take responsibility for that in then fighting against organized white supremacy and class privilege, all of those different things, were also a part of our friendship and our relationship, and to be able to get past that, to be able to have a friendship, knowing that there's always these issues at play, was also very generous on his part.
I think I was a lawyer for a couple of months and became one of Dhoruba's lawyers and eventually his main lawyer. There was the so-called Brinks robbery on October 20th of 1981. So I went to see Dhoruba. I, of course, had heard the name Sekou Odinga, and he said, look, you got to go see Sekou. You got to make sure he's okay. And so I packed up my bag and went to the Kings County Hospital in Brooklyn, to the prison ward. Sekou Odinga appeared wearing a hospital gown and pushing his intravenous pole, coming to this visit. The reason that he was in that condition is that after he was arrested on, I think it was October 23rd or October 24th of 1981, he was brutally beaten. And beaten so much that his liver and pancreas stopped working.
Sekou in the federal trial was convicted of 2 racketeering, what they call racketeering, the biggest racketers in the world history, accuse us who try to fight back of being racketeers. One was the liberation of Assad Shakur from prison, what could be more honorable. The other count was the Brinks Ahmed car robbery that ended up in as I said, when a riot ended up in a shootout. Sekou wasn't there for Brinks. It wasn't just that he wasn't there. As I later learned in the initial discussions, he thought it was a bad idea and didn't go on it. He thought it was a bad idea for reasons that panned out to be true. So here we are, Kwesi and Sekou and myself, 3 of us facing life in prison, separated from our children and our families, having gone through a lot of travails. In that situation, it's very easy for people to start blaming other people. And there were no recriminations among the 3 of us for whatever anyone did wrong or didn't do right. But Sekou didn't even say, although I told them not to do that action and they wouldn't listen to me, those idiots. None of that. He understood he's a revolutionary, committed to the struggle. The point isn't to blame other people. There is a point, and the 3 of us worked on learning from the errors and the mistakes, because it's not just about us who are all going to do life in prison. It's about the movement.
Around 2010, 2011, there was a number of organizations doing work around political prisoners, helping out with Sekou. And at that point, he felt that he needed his own committee. He needed a solid committee. He felt that if he had a lawyer in the committee, there were some issues, legal issues that he could fight that could get him out. We actually, like, just from the ground up, built a people's committee, self-defense committee for Sekou Odinga, and we called it Sekou Odinga Defense Committee. They had him at that time in Dannemora, upstate New York, which was a 5-hour drive from the city. So basically would take his wife, take his family, and I get to have conversations with him about everything from religion to political struggle to his involvement in the Black Panther Party and Black Liberation Army. Eventually we came, like, he was my mentor and we were like brothers.
I got a bunch of phone calls from New York, and Sekou is coming home. So when someone comes home, the first thing you do is you go to them, you financially enable them. And the one time I was supposed to meet him at a fair that they give for political prisoners in New York, he didn't come. And I wrote him a check and I gave it to his wife. I come back to Philadelphia and he calls me. He said, Barbara, why did you write this check? And in the memo, I had written something in the memo, which I'm not going to say. And he said, why did you write that? And I said, because that was for all the times when I was in Philly and you came to see me and you gave me support. When you know that there's somebody who believes what you believe, who loves what you love, and believes in the struggle of Black people, I always felt safe.
Sekou came out of prison and he just talked about unity and organizing, unity and organizing. And I think that was a very important point, that he put forward in every place that he did work.
the major thing I remember is, how he pulled together his years of work in the community, capitalizing off of all of the relationships that he built and all of the trustworthy connections that he had, that they put together and worked on developing an organization. That organization, the Spirit of Mandela Coalition, Baba Sekou Odinga and Sister Daqui and others pulled that together. And I was honored to be a part of that tribunal with Baba Sekou. I spent those days with him.
The relationship between, Baba Sekou started to grow more through one of our initiatives, which is the Elders Collective, which was really a way for us to, learn, ask how we could be of service.
We used to just call and maybe start off asking a question like, when y'all did the breakfast program, how did y'all do political education? What were y'all thinking about?
And that led us to, doing supporting an event called Curfest. That was really, for me, one of the ways that I got closer, or just doing more work with Sekou.
He always was kind of trying to hear from the next generation. So even when he answered whatever, he also really was just trying to listen and trying to get your thoughts,
He really loved the young people. He loved to be around, the youth, and really just instill that type of, I see you.
Baba Sekou was very aware of what I do, like of my work and my music. He was aware of that. He knew my songs. I mean, I know I have footage of Baba Sekou at one of Nancy's friends' event. I think it was like a family event. And they were all, there was a video of all of them, just talking. It was about a group of Palestinians. Obviously, one of them was my sister. So you can hear music in the background, but you see my sister, moving the camera to focusing the camera on Baba Sekou, and he's just bumping his head like that. And Nancy's like, "What are you bumping to?" And he's like, "That's Shadia."
He loved to eat, and I like to cook. So when he would come, I know it's like something special that I knew that he may like, I would try to make it. And I took him back to, like when we were kids, young, and what your parents might have made for you, like a cake or, so we started doing that kind of stuff with Sekou.
I was having hair problems. Like my hair tie was stuck in my hair, knotted, and I hate doing my hair. And I was like about to just take scissors and just chop it out, which would leave like a thick part of my hair, like much shorter than the rest of my hair. It would look crazy. And I've done it before, so I was just like, whatever. But he actually really kindly unknotted the knot that was wrapped around the hair tie and got it out. And I think that it's a small moment, but it's I get emotional. But it's, a very, I think it was like just a really beautiful example of the sort of love he possessed. I think that sometimes this work, or his undertakings, if you will, ask for, and I don't want to say require because I don't know, but they sort of demand a level of masculinity that can sometimes be incompatible with this expression of vulnerable love. And but he didn't have that. He wasn't stoic in that way or harsh in that way with me ever. And I would say in life he wasn't. He was very, very humorous all of the time. And I think that's what really set him apart.
When I think of Sekou, I think of love, revolutionary love.
When I met Baba Sekou, like I met Daqui as well. So it's like for me, Baba Sekou, Daqui, Baba Sekou, like just one for me.
He loved very much his wife, Daqui.
It was enchanting, to watch the two of them at events, to watch them at home, to watch them interact with the children, and the love both of them showed for the people. How a person could spend that much time in jail and be tortured and go through the things that he had went through. He was a little ill when he came home. But to watch his health grow and to watch him and Decree, not only is it a love story about the two, it's an example. Through the years, I've seen one of the most beautiful, revolutionary love stories ever.
He loved his family, and all the family knew he loved them. He had, of course, he had a lot of kids, but he had nieces and nephews and cousins, and everyone had a special kinship to Sekou. Each person liked him in their own way.
In the last period of his life, I had the great privilege and honor of being part of a group of people who were in the care group for him.
Right when he was passing away and transitioning, we was part of a care team that was supporting Baba Sekou at the hospital.
I really felt close to, his family, close to him, you know, giving him massages, just taking care of our elders. And that is something that, I never grew up learning and understanding.
Me and Jasiri was there on some nights with him, taking, time supporting him and being with him and learning with him. And he told me many stories on those different nights. This was going on for about 3 or 4 months.
And it made me understand, who I wanted to be as an organizer, how I want to support the community. I think you can't be around, anybody who fighting for liberation and not reflect on yourself. Like, so that's how I felt. I always was reflective of, like, every time I left Baba Sekou about myself, and the, work that I'm doing.
I mean, I would see him usually like at least once a week, usually. And then when he was going through his care, like in rehabilitating and learning how to walk and all that kind of stuff, I was there twice a week. So I was trying to get just a small piece of feathery lint or something like that, out of his eyelashes. And it took us 3 minutes. It was difficult because he could feel it, but I couldn't see it. And at the end of that, I was like, "Hey, guy," and he started giggling, and I was like, "What is funny?" And he said, "The way you said it, yai." And I was like, "What? What are we talking about? Are you not all right?" He was like, "I was. It's just the way you said it was funny. You sound like one of us." And I was like one of who?" And he said, "Like a new African." But that was the night I went home and actually read through the New African Creed. Because I the Republic of New Africa. These are things that I had heard of being around these folks, but hadn't really given time and research to. So I remember going home and reading that, and going, "Oh no, this is something I mean. I am a new African." So it truly was all these little ways and little moments that my life was redirected.
So for me, my relationship with him and what he exposed me to made me a better revolutionary, made me a better soldier, made me a better community servant, made me a better father, made me a better brother, taught me the true concept of loyalty.
That's one of the things that I honor and love about Sekou is that his leadership and his understanding and his stand that he never compromised that. Yes, we were Black Liberation Army members. Yes, we liberated Assata Shakur, and we have a right and a duty as a people, just like the Palestinians today have a right to fight and defend, their human rights. That we had an obligation and a right to have an army of people that stood up for African people in this country. And so that struggle continues.
He represents resilience and liberation and willpower and steadfastness. He represents all of these things that we needed to in order to build ourselves up to be who we are today.
I admire his mind. I admire his calmness. I admire his willingness to work across and through differences. I admire that he's the man who said, we live in a world where everybody always wants to call someone out. My practice was to call people in. That's Sekou Odinga.
We will always speak his name. His legacy will live through all of us.
I think that Sekou could easily be considered best black revolutionary and the most beloved black revolutionary of the 20th century.
So I would say, I guess I would say Sekou Odinga presente.
So for his family, his wife, all of our mutual comrades, you have our condolences, you have our blessings, you have our love. Rest in power, comrade. We will always remember
And
you.
always respect you.
Yes, yes.
Remember who Sekou was. Walk in his footsteps. And let us never forget Sekou Odinga. All power to the people.